My name is Les Rapchak. I'm the CEO of NextFlow Air Products Corp. We're manufacturers of specialized technology for blow-off, cleaning, cooling, and moving. When dealing with statically charged surfaces, such as those on plastics, it can be very difficult to remove dirt or dust particles because the static charge will tend to hold those particles to the surface. Even if you use a blower or compressor to blow the dust off, it will tend to bounce around and not off the surface. So it can be very hard to clean. The solution to that would be to combine a blow-off product with a static bar. The static bar will create the positive and negative ions that will impinge upon the surface, canceling out the static charge, making it easy for the dust particles to be blown off. At NextFlow, we have several ways of doing this. We have two different versions of air knives. We have our standard air blade air knife, where we have hooked up a static bar. We have the extreme air blade air knife, which is the most popular and the most quiet, hooked up with a static bar. And you can also utilize an amplifier. This is ideal for blowing into things such as blow molded materials, to blow off the inside, to remove scrap particles from blow molded materials, or to blow off surfaces that may be cone shaped or curved in some way. The air blade ionizer is ideal for flat and curved surfaces, even blowing inside containers and so on. If you're dealing with a deep curved surface or going inside a container, the ion blaster beam is the ideal product to use. We use a plastic head with an ionizing pin in it. It is important that the head be plastic because if it's metal, it'll tend to draw away some of the ions produced, weakening the device. So ours stays strong and powerful for your static application. First of all, let's dispel a few myths that may have been created by some companies who really don't understand how static control works. One of those is that you can take an air amplifier such as an air knife or an air amplifier and remove static charge at 20 feet away. That's really only partially correct. What happens is when you put an air knife and a static bar or an amplifier and static bar together, is that as the air blows, even though the flow is laminar, some of those anti-static positive and negative ions will tend to recombine over a distance. So even though you can take static away at 20 feet or 6 meters, it may take you a couple minutes to do so. This is not very practical in dealing with something that may be moving fast on a conveyor. However, NextFlow has a solution. We have two different sizes of static bars. Our XXX static bar, for example, puts out 3 times as many ions as a regular static bar. Ideal for use in distances that are rather far from the air knife or the amplifier and or fast moving. So what really makes the difference in removing static with an air amplifier and cleaning a surface or cleaning a surface with an air knife at a distance is to have a stronger static bar. We can do that. In order to be sure that your static devices are working, you should have 2 separate instruments. The first is a voltage testing device that will indicate that there's adequate voltage being created at the pins on the static device to produce the negative and positive ions that you need to remove the charge on the surface. So what you do is, with our device here, for example, when you get close to the static bar, it turns red, indicating that there is power going to the bar. When you get closer, it should turn green, which, as you can see, it does. That tells you that there's adequate voltage at the pins. There should always be about minimum 3,600 volts at the pins to be able to work properly. The second device that you need is the static meter to measure the charge of the surface you want to remove the static charge from, before and after, to note that it is actually working. So we have a static meter here, which I will now use to measure the charge on this plastic sample I have in my hands. And we have a charge here of about 3,000 volts, or 3,000 kilovolts per meter. Okay. I can turn on the device now, take the air blade ionizer, blow on the surface very quickly. That's all you got to do. Measures the static charge again. 0. As you can see, the blow-off force was more than adequate to blow off any dust and dirt once the static charge was removed. In fact, we were only using about 1.5 bar or 20 psi, which is quite adequate for most applications. Every static device requires a high voltage power supply to work. It is a good idea to have a minimum voltage in your power supply of 7 kV, which is what NextFlow always uses. The reason is that a voltage supply of, say, 5 kV will not last as long, simply because transformers do wear out over time, and the cable that delivers the power to the static device does draw away some voltage. As the transformer wears out, the transformer can get below the voltage that you need, thereby the device just stops working. In our case, it lasts much, much longer. So minimum 7 kV is very, very important. We only use shielded cable, fully shielded cable. If unshielded cable is used, it has to be offset. Otherwise, you get a grounding and you get an earlier destruction of the device. NextFlow Air Products manufactures specialized compressed air technology to reduce the compressed air use in your factory environment and to reduce noise and sound levels in your factory, to enhance the safety of your operations. All of our technologies can be seen on our website at www.nextflowair.com. Please contact us directly or any of our representatives worldwide who are fully trained to assist you in your applications.